This program may contain adult language, content, and graphic discussion of gore. Parental supervision is required.
Bigfoot, undisputedly the world's most entertaining cryptid. Join the Reverend Jeff Kelly and your old pal Wes as they discuss the best and worst the media has to offer. Movies, books, TV shows, commercials, all on Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly.
Welcome, everybody, to Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly. I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and on the show tonight with us, indeed, is Mr. Eduardo Sánchez. Sir, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and we're going to be talking about Exist with your old pal, Wes. Say hello, Wes.
Hello, everyone.
And joining us as a co-host tonight is the Dr. David Batdorf, pseudo-scientist. How you doing, buddy?
Couldn't pass this one up for the life of me, so here we are again.
That is right. We are going to be talking about the movie Exist. Now, I went out and I did a whole bunch of fancy stuff with the blog, and the blog tells us that the IMDb storyline tells us for 5 friends it was a chance for a summer getaway, a weekend of camping in the Texas Big Thicket, but visions of a carefree vacation are shattered with the ancient on a dark and desolate country road. In the wake of an accident, a blood-curdling force of nature has unleashed something not exactly human, but not completely animal. An urban legend to come to terrifying life, seeking murderous revenge. It exists. Hell, now, Eduardo, I got to ask you, coming off of the fame of the Blair Witch Project, you know, all of us were big fans of Blair Witch, you know, knowing what Exists was coming out as another found footage type of movie. Was it difficult not to repeat what Blair Witch was?
Well, yeah, I think Blair Witch was just kind of this crazy thing that came out of nowhere, and, you know, it was an experimental film, and we knew that, you know, when we did it, and even afterwards, like when we were going through all the crazy hype and everything, we knew that, you know, this was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of, there's just no way that we could repeat anything close to what happened with Blair Witch. But so we basically stayed away from found footage for a long time, and we realized that, you know, even early on that there was going to be, you know, we realized there were going to be other found footage movies, and you know, there had already been found footage movies. We were just kind of taking, you know, this idea that, you know, based on the germ of the idea, which is that these filmmakers go out and shoot themselves shooting a documentary, and then that's it, you know. So we invented found footage, but, you know, we didn't really invent it. It was, you know, it had always been around. It was just an idea. So afterwards, we just, you know, we didn't want to be known as the found footage guys, so we kind of stayed away from it. But then once the found footage, you know, Cloverfield and Paranormal Activity and all these other found footage movies came out, and, you know, it became more kind of acceptable. It was kind of like a subgenre of horror. So I was, you know, when finally I got a chance to do a Bigfoot movie, because the original idea for the movie was actually not going to be found footage, and then as we were writing it, we realized, man, you know, this would actually would work really well as a found footage movie. And we started thinking about the fact that, you know, pretty much anything you see about Bigfoot is found footage, you know what I mean? It's basically right. People, you know, like the Patterson-Gimlin film is a found footage, you know, it's a piece of found footage, you know?
It's shaky handheld cameras of Bigfoot.
Yeah. Handycam action. Yeah, action cam.
It's synonymous with Bigfoot. So we were like, yeah, it makes total sense. And you know, and even like the classic Legend of Boggy Creek. I mean, it's half documentary, half, you know, normal film. You know, it's a really weird film. So, and that one was, you know, hugely successful and really inspired, you know, both Blair Witch and Exist. So we just figured it's kind of the perfect, melding of, found footage Bigfoot movie. We felt was like the perfect kind of way for us to introduce the creature that I had in my head to the audience. We just thought it was the best way to do it.
Yeah. So before we talk about the film too much, I'd like to kind of back up and talk about the creature in your head. Like obviously there was a story presented and it had to do with Bigfoot, but how did what were the driving details behind the creature that you saw in your Bigfoot for your film?
Well, for me, man, I mean, Bigfoot has always been about being real. Like to me, Bigfoot is is some kind of missing link, some kind of evolutionary offshoot that somehow survived and whatever terrorizes people. Now he's just basically trying to be away from everybody, trying to be left alone, really trying to hide from the human race. So for me, it was it's an earthbound creature, and it's not superhuman. It's not can't lift a car over its head, but it's it's powerful. It's powerful like a gorilla. Like a gorilla could, a fight with a gorilla would not end up well. No matter how strong you are. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So for me, Bigfoot's like a taller version of a gorilla. So it's it's definitely stronger than a human. So the whole thing was based on reality, based on stuff that I had read about and stuff that that I kind of learned as a kid watching documentaries and so it was always based on something that was real, and that's for me Bigfoot's always been he's always been part of this world, and so that was important for me for it not to be able to jump 50 feet in the air or it's an earthbound, it's an animal, it's human, has a lot of human characteristics, but it's an animal. So to me it was very important that we kept it grounded,
Not 22 feet tall screaming at Danny Bonaducci, right?
Yeah. And also not CG, we wanted. So I've always thought that it had to be physical, had to be a guy in a suit, had to be really well done, obviously, but and that's for me that's the best thing I think about the movie is that we really did nail the creature. The creature looks pretty good.
No, yeah, it looked awesome. So like since you said like you read and watched stuff as a kid, like would you say that like this was one of your like more fun movies to film since you've had like this fascination?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, ever since I always have fun making my films, but there's a lot of pressure. Especially after Blair Witch, when it's like, okay, now I'm not making movies just for me and my friends. Like, this movie, it's going to go all over the world. A lot of people are going to see it, so you try not to embarrass yourself. So there's always this pressure, but Exist was just so much fun because it was like, I had done a movie right before called Lovely Molly, which was like probably my darkest movie other than Blair Witch.
I just watched that today. That was an incredible movie, by the way. I hadn't known about it until I read your IMDb. So
yeah, and it's
Lovely Molly was creepy.
Really, really heavy movie, and so I just wanted to kind of do a 180 of that from that, and so when we got the opportunity, and I've been wanting to make a Bigfoot movie since before Blair Witch, even. I mean,
everybody wants to make a Bigfoot movie. Now I gotta ask.
Yeah, it's always been my thing, you know what I mean? So, so once we got the opportunity to do it, it was kind of like, but yeah, it was always, it was just, I mean, I couldn't believe myself. Sometimes my partner Greg Hale and I would be on set. We'd look at each other and be like, man, we're making a Bigfoot movie, man. Doing this?
Yeah, I know how you feel. I got to ask you, and one of our buddies, Doug Hudson, wanted me to ask you as well, why the big thicket in Texas? I mean, we're Bigfooters. I mean, we actually go into the woods and go out and look for these stupid things. We get what Bigfoot territory is, and I know the stories of eastern Texas, but was there a reason behind not going to the Pacific Northwest where we know Sam Smash actually lives?
Yeah, well, you know what, it was a combination of things. Like we were, obviously when you're going to do a Bigfoot movie, you're like, okay, it's got to be, Pacific Northwest. So we were definitely heading in that direction, but we just couldn't find the right locations, and we were trying, we're not studio filmmakers. We don't have, tens of millions of dollars, so we're like,
unfortunately.
you had to make the movie for a certain price, and we knew that the creature was going to cost us a lot of money, so it was kind of like, you have to be, real economical. So we got this really great deal from a studio in Texas, and we were like, wow, we can't shoot this movie in Texas, whatever. But we went to see it, and it was, it was called Spiderwood Studios. They had like 110 acres. They're right on the Colorado, so you have like woods, you have fields, and then most importantly, you have bathrooms, like real bathrooms. And you have air conditioning. So a golf cart away, a quarter of a mile away, you had real buildings, and you could eat inside, eat lunch inside. So we knew that shooting a movie, because the movie is completely exteriors except the cabin, which is is still in the middle of the woods. So we knew we were going to be out there, so it just kind of made sense to do it. And then we started doing our research, and we found out about the big thicket, and then the Legend of Boggy Creek was shot in that area there, you know what I mean? So there's definitely...
Arkansas people would hang you from the closest tree they can get right about now, but okay. Arkansas, Texas, people who don't live there don't know the difference.
But yeah, it was mostly just pragmatic reasons. It was a good place to shoot, and and also they were going to.
Well, the scenery and the lighting seemed to be gorgeous. Like that's the thing. Like you
looks
trying
squatchy to me.
I live up in the very northwest corner of Washington State, and there's nowhere that you're going to get good lighting ever. If you're in the forest, right?
Yeah, no, it was good, and then we had and that was our thing too, is like trying to. You're doing something that's supposed to be found footage, and there's no real lighting at night, but you still need to light it because, then you can't see anything. So it was, and our DP did a great job. But it was just, it was just something that I thought worked out, and, it was just kind of a strictly logistical. It was like, all right, this is the best place to shoot this film for the money that we have.
So on the DVD that I got, I was watching on the special features. Did you get to keep those fancy snake protection shin guards that you guys were wearing?
My snake guards.
Yeah.
It was so funny, man, because we were there like 6 months before we started shooting to scout, and it was the middle of the winter, So we were walking around, and we were trying to imagine how this is going to look, all green and everything. And the owner's like, there are no snakes out here. We're like, there's no snakes out here? And like, no, there's no snakes. And it's like, that's impossible. So we were like, all right, there's no snakes. Whatever. We get there, man, I've never seen so many snakes in my life.
There's no snakes out here right now.
Rattlesnake capital of the world or something.
Opening up the temple, the temple, and I mean, it was just like crazy, man. So yeah, there was definitely some snakes. So we just just as a precaution, we got snake guards. And then I think the AD got bit by something, but we could never, the medic could never figure out whether it was a snake or not. It was just a weird kind of fight, and he didn't die. So
that's good.
It was good. But yeah, man, I hate snakes, and you would just be walking around and be just going crossing the. Oh my god.
Nice.
So that was quite an adventure.
That I was watching too. How big of the studio was it that you guys filmed that cave scene? Because I thought you guys were in a real hole, and I noticed it's like a clamshell looking.
Yeah, it was like the most ridiculous looking thing. But it looked really great inside. Yeah, it was just like, I wanted to be really claustrophobic, and you needed to be, it looks like, a cave or something that's just dug out, and so the production designer Drew White just came up with this great idea of making the main chamber open up like that. And, you could basically get all the actors inside and then close it up. And there's supposed to be 3 people in there, and 2 people and a giant Bigfoot guy, Brian Steele, who's a huge guy. Yeah. So yeah, it was just basically it's just those tricks of the trade, you know what I mean? Where it looks like you're going into this really creepy and totally claustrophobic place, but it's just like you said, it's a clamshell.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And me and Jeff were talking right before you guys had come into the group chat with us and everything, and we were talking about the things that nightmares are made of and stuff like that. And the first scene that you see Biggie, like, is a scene that nobody really notices because it's like right there when they pull over after hit. Well, I mean, you see it when he hits, but when they pull over, he's kneeling over and then he walks off, and like that is like it's like every time you hear about a Bigfoot sighting or stuff like that, that's like what I envision in my head at night seeing, you know. So every time we were out when me and Jeff went to Bluff Creek, I'm looking through the night vision and I'm like thinking I'm gonna see something like that, you know, like.
Well, that's yeah, man.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's the thing about what I wanted to do was like I wanted to start small, and then slowly show up. But yeah, man, I mean that's just it is. It's this thing of nightmares. Like you're because you can barely make it out, but once you
realize what it is.
That's something coming across, you know?
And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about this one was the fact that you didn't hide the Bigfoot from us. I mean, here it is, 14 minutes into the film, and we see it on the ridge when the couple is in the woods and Freak Boy's over there trying to get his camera on, and that was not just like a quick glimpse of that creature. I mean, we got a full-on kind of feel for how the overall look of the costume was going to be, and I was like, that's my new hero. Forget these people over here. That's the guy I'm rooting for. Okay, when are we going to start killing?
Man. Yeah. I mean, that was it. Just so for me, it's like as the filmmaker, it was like very, just you have to show enough. Like I've always believed in like the Jaws, world of monsters.
Show it to them, let them think about it, and then express it to them.
You get a couple of glimpses, and you show, you see the evidence of what this thing can do, and then you slowly start rolling it out. But I've always felt that, and that's one of the big things, what I wanted to do with this film is that it seems like there are very few Bigfoot movies, especially Bigfoot movies, where you're satisfied. You're like, all right, that was, because, it's just like, there's a monster movie is great when the filmmakers don't show you the monster right away, but by the end of the movie, you want to see some action. You don't want to be cheated. It's a monster movie. And I always felt that, like, Bigfoot movies especially, like, they just don't give you...
They do. They cheat the crap out of you. They cheat the shit out of you from the very beginning because they don't have a good enough costume to reveal it to you. That's what most of the problem is, because they try to do a full suit, including a hood with the mask, and it never comes out right. The prosthetics that we have today, though, are far beyond even 2009 stuff that they had.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing most of the prosthetic Bigfoots now coming out. It's very cool. But you did not let us down with the amount of action from the Bigfoot later on in the film. I got to ask you, though, why'd you pick a Jeep Cherokee to destroy? I got one out here on the curb, man. It just hurt my feelings just a little bit.
I had 2 Grand Cherokees, man. So I love those cars, and I would have gotten a Cherokee, but I don't fit in it.
They are. That's the thing. They're a compact SUV, and I love it because they can go just about anywhere. I
love those cars. It was just it was a car that we knew people would recognize, and we thought, it's a kind of a college age.
Yeah, that's true. It's the POS you can afford when you're going to college.
Yeah.
Now, Wes and I had a couple of what the fuck moments we had to ask you, though, because your DVD covers kind of like. They really do kind of piss us off just a little bit. If you look at my screen here, we've got option A with the giant tree smashed down through the car. Here we are, we're watching the whole movie. We see, let down. And then we get Freddy Krueger claws.
I know, man.
What was up with your art, man? Your art director probably lost his mind a little bit.
Now, both are epic pictures.
They're great.
They're just like
covers, but you're expecting that to be in the movie.
We have this thing where it's our what the fuck moment of the movie, and that's the only thing that we could
come up with.
What the fuck with was the covers.
Where are these
I mean, look, man, I wasn't happy with. I mean, I like the tree cover better than the claw cover.
Oh yeah, for
really,
sure.
both those things were kind of like, you know. I mean, and you know, the problem is that you sell your film, and
They
you
do
know,
what
once
they want with it after that.
Yeah.
you sell it, man. I mean, dude, man, you know, we fought. Well, I mean, we had kind of a battle for the. You know, they wanted to call it Bigfoot Exists, and I was like. Because, you know, people were like, they're afraid that they're not, you know, nobody's going to know this is a Bigfoot movie. I'm like, people are going to know this is a Bigfoot movie.
If they don't know this is a Bigfoot movie, I can't help
If they don't know this is a Bigfoot movie, they got some problems.
I'm pretty sure that 3-minute trailer that was released 6 months before the movie came out expressed the fact that it was a Bigfoot movie.
Which got me in a fight with my girlfriend at the time because she was a very jealous girl and couldn't handle the two girls kissing. So I didn't get to watch the movie directly when it came out.
That is absolutely sad. Now I gotta ask you for a moment about these are college kids, right? So we're assuming they got a little bit of smarts. You'd think after night one that you don't go back to the cabin, don't you?
Well, you know, the thing is that what do? You know, you know, it's one of those things where it's like camping. Like I remember camping. And you're there during the day, it's great, man, and you're hanging out. And then at night comes, and I remember one camping trip, it started raining, and it was just the most miserable, you know, just, you know, raining and camping, and you don't have a good tent, and you're just wet. So the next morning, you're like, I'm getting the hell out of here. But then the sun comes out, and you're like, hey,
everything's all right.
Let's hang out and do stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's night. And then for me, again, it started raining, and it was just like, oh, my God, we should have just gone home. So I think for them, once they kind of, you know, they want to have some fun, whatever, but then, you know, once their transportation, once the Jeep is trashed, they're kind of stuck in the woods. But, you know, it's a movie.
It seemed like it was a one-way road, too.
It's
eventually they do.
nightmare.
Well, but eventually they do make a break for it, right?
They do. I mean, eventually they're like, okay, this thing is going to tear into.
It's really culling us at a very rapid pace. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's what can I say? It's a horror movie, so you're going to have you got to find a way to kill people.
Yeah.
The bicycle chase scene, so fucking epic. Like,
all of the chase scenes, it didn't matter
no,
what chase scene
yeah,
was,
no,
but the
every
bicycle
scene, no, but that
fantastic, yeah.
just when he's riding and you see
The GoPro versus the other camera, you know,
woo, boy,
that was creepy.
Yeah, that was cool, man. I mean, that was the first day we shot with Brian Steele, who plays the Bigfoot. And you know, look, man, you know, I've had this movie in my head for a long time. I've had the way Bigfoot looks in my head for a long time, but until you shoot it, you don't know what you're going to get. And I was like, oh my God, what if this, you know, what if it can't be done? What if the reason that, you know, Bigfoot doesn't look good in movies is that you can't do it? It's
Right.
you know, that it's physically impossible.
That makes Patty real.
Yeah, so we shot all this stuff, and a couple hours later, that somebody was editing it, was editing the footage just to see if it worked, and the editor strung it up, and it was just a montage of those little shots, and we were like, man, we might have a Bigfoot movie here, you know. Yeah. So it was just, you know, I thought it was going to look cool, but until we saw it, and then, you know, and then once the editors got through editing it, you know, it was just it's a really good sequence, and you know,
yeah, because it's not like if the Bigfoot looked like crap, you could do anything about it. You just have to shoot a whole lot more night scenes than you did day scenes. I mean, that's what it had to come down to. But right,
yeah, well, but I think that
scene shooting the movie one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that scene was actually one of the scenes that kind of seals you on the monster itself, because before that, like, you know, like for me looking, I'm like, you know, I want to see the creature, and you hadn't really given it to us really.
Yeah.
But at that point, you finally really see what it is, what it can do, and that's where it becomes scary. You sell the monster in that scene, I think. Probably the most.
I gotta ask you too about that scene. The creature at that point, Brian, when he's in the suit, did he have fake feet on, or did he have like running shoes on? Because he looked like he was booking ass.
He was hauling.
In that scene, he had running shoes. And
so it really isn't capable, even in that tight of a suit, for him to be running full speed in fake feet.
No. I mean, he had you know, I mean, no, there was different things. Like they had different masks. Like they had, you know, for the close-ups, they had, you know, we would put the you know, the prosthetic stuff, which would take a long time. For that scene, since he was going to be running and we knew he was going to be kind of far away, he wore a different mask that was easy for him to see through. And then, yeah, I think they loosened, you know, they loosened the suit in certain places, and then they had these shoes that were sort of like running shoes, but they just paint them brown, so you couldn't see them. And then for the close-ups of feet and stuff, we would put him in his real feet, you know, real Bigfoot feet, and in the real, you know, the real mask. But yeah, so there's different applications for each of the things. So that one, we were just trying to make him as comfortable as possible, and hopefully, we were just hoping he wouldn't have a heart attack with all of it.
Right, because that's one of the things we've talked to other guys. You know, 30 seconds in that thing of running is like 4 minutes on the treadmill.
Dude, it was. I mean, you know, just the amount. And we shot it like in spring, so it wasn't like middle of summer Texas heat. I think somebody would have died, but it was hot, and you know. But Brian is just a professional, man. That's what they do. I mean, he trains for that. And he knows how much water he has to take during this when he's in the suit, how much food and all, just
mounds of chicken strips.
Yeah, chicken strips. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he was sweating, man. His the hands were kind of spongy, and he would squeeze them, and it would just like drip out like there was a hose. Like there's just probably pounds of sweat in that suit, and that suit was just sick after each scene. That it's just like
was it even capable of being worn at the end of the movie
with alcohol?
When you guys were done with the movie, was that suit even wearable? I hear a lot of times that they get destroyed across the course of actually making the movie.
Destroyed. I mean, every time it got torn, every time we used it, something happened to it. But yeah, it was pretty beat up, and they let me keep the cub, the little baby.
Yeah, Chaka. We call him Chaka, from the Land of the Lost.
They let me keep Chaka, man. So that was kind of.
I mean, there's a lot of flack over Chaka. I personally am 50-50 on it. It's like, how do we know what a baby Bigfoot looks like? I don't know, but Wes loves Chaka.
I mean, I had to make him cute because I was like, all right, I'm trying.
Oh, you want to appeal to the? Oh,
yeah, you had to appeal to the audience. That's why.
I'm rooting for the Bigfoot, so I don't see it that way.
I'm telling you, if I was in the woods and I walked up on that thing 3 feet, looking the way
I would just light it on fire.
I still would have ran. I would
have on fire, man. Are you kidding me?
That thing would have creeped. It would have been creepy seeing that thing walking around, man.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, the creepiest scene of the entire movie for me was that trailer scene. It's not bad enough that you're scared out of your mind and you're about to piss yourself and your buddies are already dead and you're just trying to get away from this thing. No, it's got to push you down a ravine, and not only does it push you down a ravine, then it jumps down into the ravine to get you anyhow. At that point, people just having fun, man.
Yeah.
How many times did you have to do that take of him jumping down onto the trailer?
We did it 3 times.
Only 3?
That's actually Brian doing the stunt, and he's on cables, and then we painted out the cables. But it's really hard to get the natural, and we talked about maybe doing it CG, but I was like, no, we can't do it CG, man. It has to be because you would be able to tell.
Yeah, there's no faking that anymore. We can all pick it out.
Yeah, I mean, everybody would be able to tell. So for me, it was like that was the only thing. So yeah, it was good. It was we had 2 cranes with cables holding him, and he would just jump off. We built this fake cliff and put everything into position. But it was a big stunt, man.
And then honestly, like. You would think that in this sort of found footage, scenario, that would be more less likely to be a way that you would do things. It was just impressive. Like the stunt looked really good after it came off. And I wouldn't have guessed that it was wire work. I would have guessed that it was just like somebody being absolutely insane jumping out of the cliff.
I just thought it was badassery.
Yeah. It was that kind of thing where I wanted it to. it's a found footage movie, whatever. But you're stretching everything. It's a movie,
Yeah,
It's a movie,
yeah.
So you want to have those cool shots, and it's a Bigfoot movie. You gotta have the money shots,
So I gotta ask though, like we're not going linear in the movie apparently, but like if you think about the fact that after the bicycle scene, we're pretty much sure that the dude's apprehended, and then
Matt's dead.
Matt's dead.
Sure Matt's dead. He's
But
not gonna die.
but Sasquatch keeps him. What was the like, I don't know, where did that come from? That was a kind of a twist I wasn't expecting.
To me, it was like the creature's trying to lure them closer, and then I guess once they get in there, I don't know if the creature had second thoughts or what it was, or but something went wrong there, and he got shot, and they were able to escape. But for me, it was just kind of like the idea that that the creature is toying with them. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, I'll let
It's smart enough to toy with
I'll let you hear your friend, and then you're going to come over here, and and it kind of knows that if they have a gun, so he's trying to be careful with it, but with them. But for me, it was just like having to go. I just needed to get somebody into that tunnel, man. Because that's like the freakiest thing are those Bigfoot, those Sasquatch nests, that people have found or whatever, man. I mean, it's like, it's just creepy, like the idea of building something like that, man.
Yeah, and the confined space thing, like, I'm a super outdoorsy guy, but I don't go into places I can't turn around in. That's just
I don't go to caves. Not a spelunker over here.
So that was crazy, but also so the guy's like hobbled. Matt's had both of his legs broken. Only one of his legs was broken when he fell off of his bike, right?
Right.
So that to me, that was where I was like, that's awesome. That's where the horror film kind of started for me. And in that cave was like, okay, not only does it appeal to my claustrophobia, but B, now his other leg is broken, and that's freaky. So I think that was a great touch.
But also, the funniest scene is with that dude's broken legs after they pull him out of that hole, and they're in the trailer, and then Todd sits on his leg.
Poor Todd.
I love that part. Like, I love that was thrown in because not a lot of people even catch it, and I laughed my ass off every time.
Well, yeah, and we were when we were editing that, like, I got a couple of notes because you edit and then you send it out to the producers and the people that you trust. They send you notes, and you try to do most of the notes because sometimes they're always catching things that you're not catching as a filmmaker. And I got a couple of times where it's like, we need to lose that gag. I'm like, we can't lose that.
No, there has to be a moment of comic relief to horror.
Yeah, you need it there, man. It's like you just a moment of just stupidness. Like, it just shows how dumb they are, and it's just, but they're just. Yeah, you just sat on his fucking broken legs,
While they're in a dirty trailer in the middle of the woods being chased by a psychotic Bigfoot.
Yeah. And then I'm going to run out and set up some fireworks so that, we can get out of here.
And Todd was the badass. I got a gun. I can shoot people. Yeah, there's a little bit difference between the two, but hey, I'm glad you got a gun.
Yeah. I love Todd too, man. Roger, because I let the it's found footage, so I let the actors improv a lot. I mean, they knew the lines and they knew the scenes, but within the scene, I was like, look, this has to sound natural. So just basically, make the words yourself, make the language your own, Well,
they're a whole lot better than the guys that were in Bigfoot 2006. I can promise you that, because they had lived a lot of their shit too, and boy, it was awful.
Yeah, I loved Brian's character. He was awesome. He was funny to watch.
Yeah,
Brian Tober.
Yeah, there was something where we were trying to figure out how much Brian knew, did Brian know when they were going out there that there was that the uncle had seen something, you know what I mean? Like, we were always messing with that with Chris Osborne, the actor, just trying to figure out, okay, because he when does it get to a point where he knows that there's a creature out there, and how far does he take? Like, because it's like his friend, he's being chased. There's this creature is like haunting them, and it's scary, but you can tell Brian's having a good time, man.
He's loving it.
It's all about getting that footage, man.
And I love it that it was their Uncle Bob that had this sighting, and it's like, oh, Uncle Bob had this sighting and called it Bigfoot, and it's like that's what started my whole thing. Is I have an Uncle Bob that had a crazy sighting. So it just made me like love that whole little part, like.
I wish I had an Uncle Bob that saw Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
I have an Uncle Bob that had 3 fingers chopped off in World War II, but I don't think that's the same.
No. I had an aunt. Well, I still have an aunt who used to see ghosts all the time, and then she said she saw aliens too, looking through her window. So,
The Kentucky
in Kentucky?
Yeah. I was just saying that. We're both on it.
Oh, genius. So I got to ask, we're already 36 minutes into this, and we'd love to keep you around as long as we can, but we had mentioned pre-show Exist 2. Is it possible?
It's possible, and look, I would love to do, I have like 3 or 4 really crazy Bigfoot ideas. I have a couple of them already written. So it would be great to do Exist 2. We haven't talked to Lionsgate about it or anything, but I'd love to do more Bigfoot movies. So I think that it's definitely something that's that could be on the horizon. Maybe we've always thought about maybe doing some kind of TV show. Like something or like a mini series or something that's long form that deals with the creatures. But what my thing is that I'd like to do like a whole tribe of
do Bigfoot Wars properly. Yeah. Do Bigfoot Wars right.
Yeah.
We can leave C. Thomas Howell out of it.
Yeah. And look, the problem is that you do have to spend a certain amount of money on the suit and on the effects, and and I think a lot of these lower budget. Our movie was pretty low budget too, but you really low budget. I think, like you were saying, that the suit kind of suffers, and without a good suit, to me, it's like you have to hide it, and then it's not really a monster movie at that point.
40 to 50K is what you're going to spend on a good suit these days, and that's on the low end.
Well, hey, I'll do it cheaper. I'm 6'4", and I've got a monstrous figure, and you can just throw a bunch of syrup and dog hair all over me. And I'll chase anyone you want through the
Now, old Squatch pal.
Well, when I shave my beard, I'm going to keep the hairs, and then we can.
Yeah.
Instead of locks for love, you can give them the.
Just glue it to you, man.
Yeah.
Locks the Squatch. But that's really, as an outsider, the guy watching the movies, we really don't care about famous actors. They got to be decent. Got to be decent actors. You did a good job with this one here. We like the guys, but it's all about the believable Bigfoot. Make it. Don't take it out into woo-woo land. Don't bring it in through portals. Just kind of keep it solid in reality, and you'll get a whole lot more than just the Bigfooters. You'll get people with the possibility of Bigfoot, and I think that's really the more of appeal, because the Bigfoot world's really small.
Yeah, it is, and we, for us, it's like it's always about, like we were saying, keeping it real and changing the circumstances to fit, because I would love to, the first Bigfoot movie I wrote was this script called Manable Walk, and it was it's like a Native American name for Bigfoot. And it took place in right after the Civil War, and it was a period piece Bigfoot movie.
That actually would be kind of killer. Yeah. We've never seen anything like that.
I wish. I still hope that I could make a movie something like that, because I thought it was. It's a great idea, and I think back then the whole theory is that back then the creatures were more prevalent. There's probably a lot more of them, because the humans, the Native Americans always seemed to respect obviously nature, but us, the white man came and annihilated everything. So for me, it's like I would love to keep almost go back in history and see when there was like a lot of them and or more, when there were more than just a few. And so to me, and almost even go back further when there was maybe there was like a whole Sasquatch civilization here or something, really go into that, but keep it rooted in reality, keep it rooted, it's not alien, it's not coming through a portal, it's not a, multi-dimensional alien creature, it's just a freaking missing link that has somehow survived and made its way into, into modern times.
Yeah, well, and use that as perfect cinematic allegory, like the native tribes were using that as right.
And that's kind of that's what was cool about Mandible Walk, is that it had it was like it was right after the Civil War, so it's a train that derails, and so it's segregated, but eventually everybody has to kind of work together because there's these creatures that are hunting them in the woods, So, it was definitely a cool idea with a lot of different kind of things going on. But, and hopefully maybe one day I'll be able to, get, dust it off and make it.
Yeah. So here's the question I'd like to ask you, totally to jump off of that point. Do you think that because of the closeness of the Sasquatch, is it the perfect monster? Is it really the perfect monster because it's so close?
Well, you mean for movies or just for for the imagination?
Well, just so you know, I come to this mostly from an anthropological, cultural aspect of interest in this, and that's why it's so the stories are so widespread and it's so prevalent today, and people get so excited about it still. Is it really the perfect monster? Because it is. I mean, it's basically like a big man, like a big dark, and and it's in the woods. It's always kind of a foreign setting, and I think that's the popularity of it, is that you can you don't have to make the leap to okay, there's no dragons out there. There's no giant dinosaurs or whatever. But the idea of a missing link. Or something from our past, that's kind of half human, and that's really the creepy part too. Is that it's like your cousin, It's not. It's like and that's what I think that one of the things that I think we really pulled off at the end of the movie of Exist is that the idea that there's the creature has an arc, has almost it has a character arc in the movie. You know what I mean? And really, the creature is the main character of that movie. It's the movie's about the creature, what happens to the creature, and and you see the change in the creature. And to me, that was the human side of Bigfoot, because Bigfoot to me has always been this thing where it's it is creepy because there's this human side to it. So you don't know if it's going to be nice, but but you don't know if it's going to be mean. Human nature is, we're very humans are very nice and very loving, but they also can do the most,
destructive beings on the planet.
Yeah. We can do the most horrible things to each other. So this thing of of keeping that human side, that danger. But yeah, man, I think it's like the personification of the boogeyman, the thing that's in the woods, and that's why I think that.
Out of all the monsters that are out there, Bigfoot to me is the most believable. Mummies, vampires, goth people. None of those things actually exist, right? I mean, speaking of vampires, I wanted to ask you, I noticed in your credits that you've been working on From Dusk Till Dawn over the last couple of years, and I've been watching this series myself. I really enjoy that series. Now, have you enjoyed your participation in it?
Oh, I love it, man! I love it. It was the first TV show that I had done a couple years ago, and it was just great, man. I mean, I love doing TV. I love everybody on the Dust on the Dust set. They shoot in Austin, so actually some people from Exist actually work on Dust Till Dawn.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's kind of like coming home, and everybody's. very cool. And
the guys that they have playing the Gecko brothers are amazing. If that's not Quentin Tarantino and Clooney, if it's not younger versions of them, I don't know if I've time traveled, because those guys are amazing in those roles.
Yeah, no, they're good. They cast it really well, and everybody, you know, it's a good set. Everybody gets along, and they just got picked up for a third season, so hopefully they're gonna ask me back. But yeah, I'm always excited to go down there and shoot some stuff with them.
The small short film in VHS 2 that you did, the zombie one. Oh my god, dude, that was so epic! Like I've always talked about, like that view of the zombie, you know, like the zombie going in and fucking somebody's day up, and I just love that it went to a child's birthday party. That was the best.
That was Jamie Nash, man, who wrote Exist too, man. It was like he just came up with a script, and we were like, oh my god, we got to do this, and it was just that was a fun shoot too.
So epic.
We shot it right after I shot Exist, so we learned a lot from the whole, you know, the GoPro experience from Exist, and we used it in that movie.
That whole fisheye thing on the GoPros kind of turns my stomach just a little bit. I wish they'd get rid of that. It's just a little tiny bit, enough to make it annoying. Almost as annoying as that girl crying into the camera in Blair Witch. Oh.
Yeah, you can put I think you can put a different lens on it that makes it a little bit, that doesn't have that much, but yeah, it's you know, because it looks like surveillance. It always looks like surveillance footage.
Yeah. Well, now your iPhone 6 films in 4K, so hey, no more movie cameras needed, right?
Exactly, man.
After, you know, with Exist being done now and everything, if you could go back, is there anything that you would like take out or now or put in that you maybe?
No, I mean, you know, if I go back to Exist in a few years, it's too recent. So, but yeah, whenever I go back to see my films, like, you know, from, you know, 5-6 years ago, there's always little things that you like see, and you know, but no, man. I mean, you know, we fortunately, I know we don't have much control over the posters, as I said, but
it's still, the tree still made it in there.
Yeah,
it still made it in there.
Yeah, the movie is, you know, we really, you know, I mean, we really spent a long time trying to figure out everything. So there's very few things that I would do differently. You know, it's just, it's like your kid. You know, I don't know if any of you guys have kids, but like, you know, you're proud of your kids and you love them, and you know, there's obviously your kids aren't perfect, but you wouldn't change anything about them.
I keep my kid locked up in a 4x4 cage.
Yeah.
when you go back to revisit Exist, the director's cut, you know, in 10 years, can you get rid of that hard edit for me? There's that one moment of clip of hard edit that I catch even if I'm not trying to pay attention to it, it still drives me crazy.
Where is it?
I think it's right in the middle of the trailer scene where it cuts from one camera to another. There's just one frame of a hard edit that I just want to.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
I didn't catch it when I watched it.
Yeah,
today,
I've seen it like 100 times, so of course I see every little thing about it. But yeah, there's just like one frame of a hard edit that one guy just, do I do it before or after? I don't know. After. Okay. OCD guys will drive me crazy, but I love it. Like I said, I've seen it probably once a month since it came out.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I wanted to say this too, like you. By far, Blair Witch, like, introduced, like, I know found footage was out there before, but found footage kind of, like, it created, like, my all-time favorite movie genre, and it was because of Blair Witch. And when Blair Witch, I was one of those yokes that went on the website that, you know, before it was out, you know, and was, like, learning about the Blair Witch and was like, holy shit, this is so cool. And
it's real.
Yeah, and when you first released it, it was only like in certain theaters, like very few. And we looked it up, and we looked and looked, and we drove like an hour and 45 minutes to some theater that was like the size of my apartment. And we watched it, and it was and now I'm freaking doing an interview with you. It's awesome. I just wanted to say, dude.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I love stories like that, man. Because I mean, look, man, Blair Witch was like, I talked to you guys.
I had nightmares about that movie, even though I knew it wasn't real.
Well, I had nightmares about it too. Very, very different nightmares. But
was it testicles in the little fucking sack that she left outside?
What the hell was that?
What was it? It was teeth and some hair.
Oh, okay. I was like, "There's a lump there." I was like,
I thought it was like a piece of nose, or
we showed it to people, and everybody would ask us, "What the hell was in that bundle?" And we were like, "That's because it looks like an ear, or it looks like
it's like a piece of flesh or something."
But it's just great because it was just bloody teeth, and I love the fact that people were like, "Oh my God, that's his ear," and "Oh, that was his tongue." Oh my God, no, we couldn't afford those kinds of effects.
I played the hugest prank on my mom. She went, and this is what the movie then got released to theaters, and my mom, we kept telling her about this movie, and she. Really gullible, we're telling her, oh yeah, these people are lost, this is real footage, da, da, da. So she goes to see this movie. Me and my little brothers, we sit and we make about 30 to 35, 40 maybe of those little wooden sticks and just completely put them all around her backyard and like piled rocks funny. She got home, let her dogs out, just hear the scream.
So let me tell you my experience. I went and saw this in the theaters, and yeah, it really it affected I was with my little sister at the time. Little being like she was 18, I was older, but we came out of the movie theater and somebody had strung all, like they weren't there when we came in, strung all the way up and down the trees outside the movie theater, the stick figures. So everybody comes out of this and it was like the midnight showing, right? It's like totally the staff messing with us.
Epic.
And we came out and it was just like it was awesome.
And you think that's great and all, and that's cool until you go to Burkittsville and you go on that hike up that hill that actually exists that they filmed in the movie, and you find them little friggin' things hanging from the trees up there. We took a road trip. Up to Burkittsville, and them little things were hanging in the trees off the trails up there.
People definitely had fun, with that movie. I think it was part of like the success of it is that people would take other people and say, "Oh yeah, it's completely real." I mean, people were like kind of in on it, and they, people would, the stick figures hanging from the theater is something that I think I've heard from a lot of people, and also just like people going home and then the next morning they hang some stuff in their, outside of their girlfriend's house or something, like people freaking other people out, man. And that's really what it's such a great thing to hear stories like that from. When I was a kid, I was inspired by movies, and just to be, and I had, obviously I'm a film fan, and just for people to be saying things about my movies that way, it's just like I just love it, man. It's just like it's just such a cool thing. I never thought I would make a movie that kind of is still kind of hanging out around, like Blair Witch. Like people are still talking about it. It's a weird kind of thing to be part of it, but I feel very blessed to have been a part of it.
Yeah, and so here's the Squatch Staunch podcast in me coming out right now. Like, let's think about the fact that film was so successful, and why you think you did, like, not only was it done well, but why you don't think that you could do that again was because of the hype that you built up on that. And do you think that in this day and age of the internet and Snopes, etc., do you think that you could actually pull that off again in a?
No, you could. I mean, and when we were when we were doing the movie, we never thought we were going to release the movie that way. That was just the studio decided to do it. No, it was. I mean, you can't get away. I mean, the internet was such a small fraction of what it is now. So no, you couldn't do that this day and age.
Yeah, it's just a curious thought. There's a lot of things.
I think people try it, and there is marketing. You can always, there's ways of marketing your film, and a lot of with the internet or whatever. But it's just a different thing now. It's just a different, it's such a huge thing. Everybody has the internet now. Back then, it was just very, very limited, So
Never say never. You can do it with Altered 2.
Yeah, no, man.
Re-altered.
I would love to be able to do it, again.
Altered remix. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up our final questions on it, basically. And my question is going to be to you, Eduardo. What is next for you on your plate, sir?
We're developing some TV stuff, and I have a feature that is being doing final rewrites right now on it, so we hope to get into that early next year. And then I'm doing a lot of TV. I'm doing some more TV shows coming up, and next year I hope we'll be busy. And but mostly TV, man. Trying to direct other TV shows, but also trying to get our own show going. We got a pitch on Wednesday with some people. So it's it's just kind of keep moving and see what we can do. But TV is so much more satisfying right now, than so much more exciting than
it's the age of TV too. I mean, we wait so long for movies to come out, but television seems to be so much more available.
Yeah, and there's just cooler stuff, and they're taking chances. They're taking more chances on television than they are in movies these days. So as an artist, it's as a filmmaker, it's just more exciting to go into that world than be stuck and kind of because especially in horror movies, like there's a certain kind of horror movie they want, and if you don't fit that mold, they don't really pay too much attention to you. So
exactly. Wes, you got a final question tonight, buddy?
Yeah, you had mentioned something about tattoo work and stuff, so next time you're in California, you make sure you hit me up, and I'll make it down to you.
I've been looking. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mine are really simple, but I've been like wanting to just, I don't know, I want to make sure it looks good, so.
Well, Wes is an amazing artist. I'm going to have him do my stuff as soon as I can get down to him as well. Yeah. David, got a final question for Eduardo tonight?
Eduardo, what is your most prized Star Wars trophy?
Gotta mention the Star Wars.
I have Yoda's flute from Empire Strikes. One of Yoda's flutes. Like I didn't even know he had a flute till I bought it. Yeah. But you can see it in the movie, and it's on action figures and stuff. But he has this little necklace with this little, it looks like a little pan flute. But I have one of those. I think there's only like 3 of them, and he actually wore it in the movie. So the little in Empire and in Return of the Jedi. So
wow,
very nice. I'm a nerd, so I had to find out.
You already have your tickets for Awakens?
The what?
I said you already have your tickets for Star Wars?
But of course. No, yeah, I do, man. I'm excited about it. I'm trying to avoid the trailers now, man, because it seems like it gets to the point now where they start showing you too much. You know what I mean?
I'm the same
they
way.
stopped showing you Luke. You don't see Luke anymore in the trailer.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I'm excited about it, man.
Well, definitely check out Eduardo Sanchez's movie Exists. And that's going to wrap it up for our discussion on the Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly for the Dr. David Batdorf, pseudoscientist, and Mr. Eduardo Sanchez. We thank you, sir, for coming along with us. And your old pal, Wes. I'm your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. We say thanks for watching, and may the Squatch be with you.